Welcome back to the Juke's Towers of Hell Fangame Iceberg. This layer is the third largest layer in the iceberg, containing 48 entries, so it's going to be split into a few parts. This video is part 1, and will uncover many interesting facts about 17 fangames. You don't need to watch previous layers to understand this iceberg. However, if you are unfamiliar with what Juke's Towers of Hell is, watch the first part. Layer 5 comprises of fangames which have 10,000 to 50,000 visits. Sit back, get some snacks, and let's continue our adventure into the countless Juke's Towers of Hell fangames. The LAT Project is not in this layer anymore, it is now in the 50,000 visits layer. LAT is an abbreviation for likely a tower. This small tower classifies under the mini tower type. The mini tower type is a steeple but smaller. It is 5 floors and a 20 by 20 by 20 floor size. Keep in mind that this is a loose definition and the mini tower type is an umbrella term for any small tower with 5 floors. Regardless of the frame size, likely a tower is located in Ring 5 and is regarded for its high quality and enjoyment. A more common or familiar name for this tower type are neats, even if neats are smaller, which leads to the LAT Project. The LAT Project contains towers, which are 1/3 the size they normally are. The game is actively being worked on, currently containing 3 rings. The ring select contains a second area holding zones, however no zones are released. The lobby is around 1/5 of the original size. The Ring 1 lobby is a miniature replication of what it is in Juke's Towers of Hell, with a few minor changes. Every tower has the prefix likely A, followed by the tower name. Citadels also have this trend, but instead have the prefix maybe A, referring to maybe a tower. Maybe a tower is a mini tower in Ring 2. It is very similar to likely a tower. In addition to the normal tower categories, there are extra LATs. This category contains monthly towers, which were remade as LATs. There are 2 which fall under this category. The creator, who is IK Ben Maxim, recognizes how easy it is to skip the LATs, due to there being no jump reducers in the entire game. In the Turtle Therapy Room holds the neat in the left back corner. The neat has no name and is titled the acronym NEAL. Gameplay in the LATs are not an exact replica, but rather they have gameplay stylized off the tower they are from. If you have already played or beaten JToH Towers, this creates a familiar, uncanny feeling, unique to each LAT. Likely a True Skill is a pretty cool LAT. Its style mirrors the actual Tower of True Skill while using fresh gameplay. This game feels like the neat project if the frames could fit gameplay inside them. The bite-sized towers are a fun challenge to overcome. This is the first entry, which contains a game with no gameplay. The game is created by a fairly popular Roblox game creator and tower builder known as The Burbs Word. And as the name suggests, it is a collection of tower portals. Not any collection of tower portals, but a collection of uniquely decorated portals of well-known towers. The decorations around the portal aim to be similar to the actual tower. Unique themes, gimmicks, and design choices are key parts of each portal. Each portal is categorized into the ring, zone, subrealm, or event they were present in. There are all 9 rings, 8 zones, and various subrealms and events which have existed through Juke's Towers of Hell's runtime. Throughout the area, the song Crypt of the Necrodancer Rhythm Mortis plays on repeat. Some of my favourite portals are Citadel of Heights and Depths. The portal just represents all of the unique features of the Citadel in one small package. Tower of Celestial Darkness. The pulsing spinning crystals are so cool. Tower of Zest Plus. The portal has very minimal detail, but the switching Zest Plus text is a creative idea which is executed perfectly. Tower of Descent into Exile. An obvious pick as the amount of detail is impressive, reflecting the detail in the tower. And lastly, Tower of Tornado Vemus. The portal has a tornado and tornadoes are cool. Also, the portal design looks nice. There are so many creative and unique portals which I haven't mentioned here. The Portal Project's community towers is designed the exact same as the Portal Project. The difference is in the towers within the game. This is basically a DLC. The game contains towers which are well known, but not inside JToH. Whitelisted towers also have their decorated portals inside the game. Whitelisted towers are towers which have passed the review process but have not been confirmed to be added inside of Juke's Towers of Hell. Another very common area of tower portals are portals for towers in other JToH Fangames, like in others Towers of Stupidity. The portals are grouped on how difficult the towers are. Citadels have their own separate section. Like the last game, Crypt of the Necrodancer with a Mortis plays on repeat. While I have not played most of the towers in this game, I will still show you some of my favourite. Tower of Revolving Whack has a very unordinary portal. The slanted portal is not something you see every day. Tower of the Dreamy Express is one of my favourite portals in any of the two games. The colour use and atmosphere, including the train, acts together to have a perfect dream-like feeling. Tower of Mind Games has a very detailed portal that shows key mechanics of the tower, and looks so good and very high depth of detail. There are so many more amazing portals, go check them out in either of the games if you would like to see them. Smallclesium Towers is the next size up from the LAT Project. The towers are now 2 times larger, having 50 by 50 by 50 stud frames. The owner, who is T-Mont5, created the game all the way back in December of 2019, making it one of the oldest fan games on this layer. Entering the game will bring you to the ring select, which is pretty similar to an old version of the Juke's Towers of Hell ring select. However, there is a third world. This third world is most likely heavily inspired by the LAT Project's third world. However, this third world is just a number on the ring select and cannot be entered. The game's entire content lies within 3 rings, as no zones have been released. Ring 3 has this weird glitch with one of the towers. Unlike other fan games or JToH itself, all of the content can be accessed without beating a singular tower. So let's quickly discuss some of the quirks of each lobby. Ring 1's lobby is a mini version of Juke's Towers of Hell lobby back in 2019 to 2020. The tower's format is different, as the tower categories are in a cube layout instead of in a line layout. Ring 2's lobby is more of a remix of the Ring 2 lobby than a mini model of it. It has various tall rocks which hold the towers around the main building. Small Tower of Difficulty Chart and Small Citadel of Wacky Strategy have nothing on their corresponding rocks, as they were never made. Ring 3's lobby is the old semi-forgotten lobby. It is completely enclosed with a main area for towers, which is pretty similar to the original Ring 3 lobby. The outside has a rocky plateau, which supports all of the towers. The towers within Smallclesium Towers all start with the prefix Small Tower of. Citadels start with the prefix Small Citadel of. The small towers of elements reflecting the original, however, feel completely different. Small Tower of Screen Punching has the most different frame, with there being an additional floor. The additional floor has a purple wireframe and new gameplay. The game is perfect if you find the LAT Project or the LAT Project too short. If you want to go back to the old rings and towers, this game is the game to go to. You can probably tell by the name that this game seeks to expand upon JToH's beginnings. It takes the old state of each tower and slightly alters it, or just adds completely new sections. The lobbies are completely remixed, not even slightly resembling the original lobbies. Ring 1 has an open island lobby with a decorated path leading to the towers. There are towers which would have been implemented only in very early versions of JToH, like Tower of Broken Bricks, which is currently a Zone 3 tower, but in JToH Plus, it is in Ring 1. There is also a recreation of the unnerved, mid-terrifying version of Thanos Tower. Failing on the first floor will end your run instantly. Once again, Tower of Screen Punching has an additional floor, bumping the floor count up to 10. The final floor is a light maroon colour. Unfortunately, none of the wind pads work, as many of the scripts are outdated, and the game is rarely getting updated. JToH Plus is owned by Not_Grog, and turned 3 years old at the time of writing the script. Joining the game will bring you to the ring selects. There are 9 rings and 1 zone that are completed. There is a zone 1.5, but it seems like an experimental zone as a number of towers is subject to change. As mentioned earlier, the wind pads not working means that rings 2 to 4 cannot be accessed. But strangely, rings 5 to 9 and zones 1 and 1.5 can be accessed. Joining any ring or zone will spawn you with some free gears, from the lowest being 4 gears in Ring 1 to the highest being 6 gears in Ring 9. The gears are Helicopter Powers, T-Pose, Trail Mix of Heck, Magnifying Glass, Torre Mix, and Bootleg Coil. I would like to thank Salanest and Not Grog for answering some questions about JToH+. What is the purpose of JToH+? Originally, the game was intended to be some sort of reimagination as I saw it of JToH itself, completely modifying some parts of the game itself to be more akin to 2019-ish JToH, and also has some sort of archival place, having removed and unnerved at least up to some recreations of towers such as old TT. Naturally, this also has its skips and stuff, so like Lamau. Currently I'm trying to make the game itself more original, trying not to be some sort of obscene JToH clone, albeit all the towers were gotten by legitimate means, to put it lightly. What has changed inside of JToH+ compared to JToH? To put it lightly, basically most abusable things from 2019 JToH return, such as /E laugh, speed glitching, and swords, and corner clippable toga, but we don't talk about that. There's also improved upon, and completely new lobbies for each ring, and even a burner area for towers that I whitelisted but haven't found a place to put them in yet, or just simply haven't built. Even basing myself upon obscure concepts to build stuff. Example, JToH Beta Ring 7. As the owner said, the game is a time capsule storing the beginnings of JToH and is really interesting if you want to try the unnerved recreations of towers. JToH's Towers of Pain is a fairly old fan game, being created in 2021. The game is created by the only GIF. The creator's old name was JToH is Very Fun, which explains the JToH at the very start of the game's name. The game has one ring, with rings 2, 3, and 4 having a placeholder in the ring select. Joining ring 1 will put you in a lobby with various islands scattered around the sky. These islands are connected with bridges. Each island holds their own buildings. Next to the spawn is a time leaderboard, which tracks the top 100 players with the most time. Cam is YOLO is at the top with an insane 2 million seconds, and still counting. That's 23 days. The difficulty chart and credits can be found by following the path. The difficulty chart shows the difficulties of 11 towers, a citadel, a steeple, and a neat. Continuing on the path will lead you to Citadel of Lethal Experiences Portal, a room with bowls in it, the hard difficulty practice obby, and the bridge to the second island. The second island contains the beginner and intermediate towers, and a bridge to the third island. The third island contains the last 2 tower categories, those being advanced and psychologically unsafe towers. Generally, the towers have a classic theme with classic gameplay. Tower of Transparency is a pretty menacing tower, and is the only tower in the game with a very long label. While I am not good enough to beat Tower of Transparency, the gameplay looks alright. Tower of Hands Shaking is a remorseless tower which holds 3 stars. The gameplay, creativity, and owner likes the tower star. Tower of Hands Shaking is also too hard for me to complete, but doing the first few jumps gives a great impression on the tower. There are a lot of secrets around the map, the most obvious ones being the steeple and neat location. You can find them yourself. This is a pretty unique game which brings back the feeling of a fairly old untouched JToH fan game. Multiple towers hold the beloved classic feel of older tower obbies. It is a game worth playing. From a classic fan game to a classic themed fan game, MTRK5's Classic Towers of Hell tries to emulate the classic feel and quirks of the tower obby genre all the way back in 2018 to 2019. Going into the World Select reveals a different type of World Select. This is one of the few games which has a ring select which is designed like this. Lining the World Select are portals which take you to the worlds. Currently 3 worlds are completed. Around each portal is a set of hand-picked towers to show you what to expect in each ring. On top of that portal shows your progress into clearing that world. Jumping into Worlds 1 portal will take you to a very familiar lobby, reminiscent of Ring 1 Juke's Towers of Hell. There is a familiar building in the middle of the main floating island. An immediate flashback to old Roblox is the UI at the top of the screen. There is the old inventory and chat bubble icons. The lobby and towers have the shadowy lighting. This lighting just adds to a feeling of oldness from the game. Inside the towers section will show many towers bunched up in one area. This is another key part of the old feeling, as newer lobbies usually have the towers spaced out in elaborate lobbies. There are some really well-known towers in MTRK5's Classic Towers of Hell. In World 1 alone, there is Tower of Exasperation and Tower of Cruel Punishment. Tower of Exasperation is the original version of a very well-liked citadel in Juke's Towers of Hell called Citadel of Pure Exasperation. Tower of Cruel Punishment is the original version of a very infamous tower also called Tower of Cruel Punishment. The revamped version of the tower is infamous for its catastrophic difficulty. The owner, who is MTRK5, only has 2 of the towers in the first world. The difficulty chart has all of the same difficulties seen in JToH's difficulty chart. However, the white difficulty is called Never Again. Never Again is a very old name for the catastrophic difficulty. The colours of the difficulty chart are slightly more diluted than what is seen in the current difficulty chart, obviously resembling the older difficulty chart. The game is very interesting. It contains many old, well-known towers. I would recommend checking out the game if you wanted to try out older tower obbies. Flare's Towers of Hell is a tower fan game created by Flareon and Yoshi. It has an incredibly low visit count, standing at 11,600 visits. In my opinion, it is a very underrated fan game. Flare's Towers of Hell has 4 rings which are called areas. The first area is located in a river with a cliffside next to it. The second area is located on some flat ground on a mountain. The third area hovers over the open mouth of a volcano, and area 4 is inside the mountain on a plateau. The first area holds 11 towers, 3 steeples, 2 neats and a citadel. However, the citadel has not been released. The first area also has 2 soul-crushing towers, which is not common in tower games. Area 1's lobby is a peaceful river which flows into a large ocean. There is a large area outside to explore with a few secrets. The castle to the right of the river holds the towers, credits and cat therapy. Ascending the secret platforms in the cat therapy will bring you to this tree with this guy inside. The towers vary in quality, but are generally pretty high quality. I found that Tower of Sideways Travelling is a fun baseline intense tower. The end is way harder than the rest of the tower, but it is a first great intense to go for. Tower of Cubicle Travelling is also a great tower. It holds 3 of 5 possible stars. The design and creativity stars are self-explanatory. The white star is awarded to towers which are liked by the owner or co-owner of the game. Tower of Cubicle Travelling has fairly difficult gameplay for an intense, but it has a lot of nets, and is not really punishing at all. So if you have a little bit of time to kill, this is definitely a tower you want to consider. A lot of the towers in Area 1 have unusual frames. The 2 towers mentioned before, Tower of Sideways Travelling and Tower of Cubicle Travelling, both consist of sideways progression. There are many more towers which have odd ideas and strange progression too. Tower of Randomly Generated is a fairly long remorseless tower which is fun, engaging gameplay. There are various nets throughout the tower which complements the pretty tough but well-made gameplay. Flare's Towers of Hell is a fairly recent JToH fan game, being created in April of 2022. This can be seen by the style of the towers and lobby which have that newer aspect towards them. Area 1 towers have a more classical gameplay design and creativity style, but not all towers have this. It is still getting actively developed and updated today. This is a very interesting fan game which is super underrated. After almost clearing the entirety of Area 1, I highly recommend playing through and beating some towers as it is very fun. Cris's Towers of Madness is yet another high quality fan game. Joining the game will present you with a vibrant loading screen which displays the logo floating in the middle of the screen. The ring select is distinctly unique due to the amount of detail scattered through the environments. Another notable thing is the high tower counts found in each area. Area 1 has 17 towers, while Area 2 has 18 towers. There are 2 worlds, the A side and the B side. However, the owner, Cris XD123, plans to change this at some point. No zones in the B side have been released. Area 1 is set on an assortment of sky islands. It is a very intricate lobby, which holds a massive tree in the middle of the main island. There are various windmills and flora that inhabit the island. There are also many tower portals, which are scattered across the island. These tower portals come in a few shapes and sizes. Cris's Towers of Madness classifies tower types differently to other fan games. Boxes are the recognizable 1 floor. Steeples are slightly smaller than normal, containing 3 floors. Towers are half their normal size, holding 5 floors. And citadels have a large floor range, being between 8 and 20 floors. Each portal has their own unique design. which represents features of the tower, the same way the Portal project doesn't. The portals look super nice and grab your attention. Just like the portals, the tower also holds the standard, as towers are high quality and enjoyable to go through. Just from entering the tutorial tower, which is Tower of a Great Beginning, gave me a great first impression. Some towers have time markers which indicate how long each tower is. This is becoming fairly common in fangames, but Cris's Towers of Madness adds a short length markers too. Towers can have the extremely short marker, which shows that a tower is less than a minute long. Same with short towers, which are less than 5 minutes long. Another noteworthy thing is the super unique way to get to these psychologically unsafe towers. This requires taking a jump pad to the advanced plus towers and further progressing to the swing creation. This adds a short, not annoying challenge to get to the hardest category of towers inside the game. If you find this annoying at any time, Cris's Towers of Madness has a very useful feature called Quick Access. This feature allows for the quick access of towers anywhere on the island. After playing this fan game for a while, I really enjoyed it. However, the game does struggle with accurately placing difficulties. The 3 remorseless towers felt way harder than their spot in the difficulty chart. I'm not the best at obbies, but I can usually make progress on remorseless towers. These towers had me struggling to make it to floor 3 on both of them. Nevertheless, this game still has great high quality towers which will cure your boredom. Kirk's Towers of Nonsense is a game with towers that are half their normal size at 5 floors. The game also has citadels and mini towers. The frame sizes are very similar to Cris's Towers of Madness. This is another fairly unknown fan game, standing at 12,300 visits. It is a fairly old fan game, being created all the way back in August of 2021. The ring select is called the section select, as rings are called sections. Currently only 2 sections are finished. Section 1 is set in a fairly vibrant cave filled with lots of flora and mushrooms. There are 12 towers, a citadel and 2 mini towers within this section. This segment has many beginner-friendly towers, which are on the lower side of their respective difficulties. The second segment is themed as a swamp area. The swamp area holds lots of mushrooms too, and a greater difficulty spread. The whole section select develops an entrancing and mystical atmosphere. Joining segment 1 of the fan game created by Kirky will enter you into a laboratory looking area. The middle of the laboratory is a pool of blue liquid with a mist gravitating to the ceiling. Surrounding the middle is a large amount of mushrooms, pipes, and most importantly, tower portals. There are the normal tower categories, ranging from beginner towers to mentally unsafe towers. The portals have a length marker on top of them to give an estimate of how long each tower will take without getting confused or falling. Kirk's Towers of Nonsense has an emphasis on cats. This is super obvious on the tutorial tower, which is filled to the brim with cat images. The lobby also has cat models scattered around the environment. Tower of Oceanic Depths has an atmosphere pretty similar to the lobby. It tells a bite-sized story through an oceanic medium. Mini Tower of Ordinary Array is a pretty enjoyable mini tower. The gameplay is unique and the punishment felt fair. Tower of Clockwork Timetable is a pretty awesome modern tower. It uses mechanics of low jump zones and fading platforms to ascend the tower. Lastly, Tower of Fabled Passage, which is the soul crushing, is great for skill boosting. Skip 10 seconds if you want to find the location yourself. Go to the Advanced Towers section, flip this lever, go left to these pipes, and the tower will be located behind them. This soul crushing has pretty tough but consistent and rewarding gameplay, which trains you with the skills required to do much harder towers. Kirk plans to add a Section 0, and no, this isn't like a corrupted version with hellish towers, but rather a friendly tutorial. By the time you are watching, various updates would have released, the most notable one being release of Section 3, which would have released to be one of the most ambitious and enchanting sections. Section 1 would have 2 additional towers, including Challenging Tower of Delightful Oddity and the remorseless Tower of Crippling Up. Section 2 is getting a lobby redesign and 2 tower replacements. This is on top of many other miscellaneous features like new UI, section select, and quality of life updates. Kirk's Towers of Nonsense is yet another high quality fan game that is worth playing. There are various towers which present and use gameplay ideas only found in this fan game.
In the 19
If Buff Towers was too easy for you, then oh boy do I have the game for you. This insane concept was created by Artemis, and the goal of the game is just to buff everything to be ridiculously hard. The towers are buffed to the point where the gameplay is only possible by a tool called Tool Assisted Speedrunning, basically a character which can do inhumanly precise movement, jumps and manipulate luck. The difficulty chart in this game starts where Juke's Towers of Hell difficulty chart ends. The lowest difficulty on the difficulty chart is horrific, then unreal, then nil. Now we get to the unknown impossible difficulties. After nil is error, then Y, then no, then death, hell, Tartarus, unimaginable, and finally mythical, topping the difficulty chart. Their icons can be seen on the screen. Mega Buff Towers have a differing tower name. Say for example, Mega Buffed Tower of Anger is renamed to have a much more daunting name of the Tower of Infuriating Exasperation. All the Mega Buff Towers that are finished are by Artemis, who is the owner. Another builder named Trucify has claimed a few towers to buff, however has not begun to buff them. Even if I struggle to do a singular jump, towers all seem around the same difficulty, despite what the difficulty chart says. Tower of Infuriating Exasperation and Tower of Anxiety are 3 difficulties apart. However, the gameplay looks the same barely possible jumps, not using super complicated physics or client objects, just the same styles. One of the more popular Mega Buff towers is the Tower of Heck, but buffed to nil difficulty. Even if I could not find the tower on YouTube, there is a fairly known video of someone using TAS to beat it. Unfortunately, there is not a TAS in the game. However, you do get a few items when you spawn in. You spawn in with Blessed Coil, Bootleg Coil, the letter F, Sprite Cranberry, Trail Mix of Heck, and No Clip. These items are useful for just simply checking out towers, as the difficulty is too hard for anyone to beat. Play this game if you would like to go insane, as the difficulty of these towers are unrealistic. It is really cool to see an approach which buffs these towers to these difficulties. The 2 games we are going to cover next both fall under this name. The gist of World's Best Towers is the title is inverse of the actual game, and unfortunately the game does not have the World's Best Towers. World's Best Towers Classic was created by Bacon State Gaming, also known as EETYUIKGY Treat YHFU. The game aims to be purposefully bad and have terrible gameplay, aneurysm-inducing design, and actually not bad creativity. Sometimes. The classic title games that hold the style are God's Awful Towers games or GAT games. World's Best Towers Classic is the least popular of the 2 games, standing at 16,000 visits. Joining the game will enter you into this abomination of a ring select. The ring select is 4 rings that all have themes similar to Juke's Towers of Hell. The ring select and the lobbies are themed off Juke's Towers of Hell. All rings are free to enter. Joining any ring will show you a very interesting lobby. The lobby will contain not nice colours and random shapes, signs, and all other parts. Let's use ring 1 as an example of the stuff you will find in the game. The first thing when you see spawning in ring 1 is a sign saying, "Don't take this game seriously, lol." Further exploring the many misspelled towers through the dense fog shows the purposefully, jokingly bad nature of the game. It is fun to go through and try to beat some of these towers, as they would never see the light of day in other types of fan games. With that background and knowledge of the original game, let's move on to the revamped version. World's Best Towers is very much like the original, however it is revamped. Every time you join, the game will load and check your badges in a pretty slow process. Eventually getting to join the game, there's a spinning sign greeting you saying 2 messages, as you can see. There are 8 areas with at least 7 complete. There are also 2 subrealms. The subrealm Splunky's Domain recently being added. Compared to the last game, the towers seem to be higher quality. There are still plenty of joke towers and citadels, but it is feeling more like an actual fan game. Looking around reveals towers with actual nice frames and decent designs, but that shouldn't distract you from the goldmine of the best towers. Anyway, the concept of revamping a purposefully joke game is so goofy. World's Best Towers is created by a popular JToH content creator called Siganite. Moving on from that, I just want to say how these games are pretty similar to a pretty notorious idea called the Babel Library. A library which contains every book with every combination of every letter in every place. So basically, it's a book full of any code of letters and numbers and anything. These fan games really are like that. They contain towers that would not be housed anywhere else. These towers use parts that may not be placed anywhere else, or parts that would not be used otherwise. It is a really cool idea to play around with, but these fan games are very interesting and cool. They go against modern tower building standards and develop a completely unique niche genre out of it. It is worth a play if you are interested. Addison's Classic Towers is a tower game made by the semi-popular content creator Addison. The game attempts to recreate the feeling of older Juke's Towers of Hell towers and lobbies. The game has 22,700 visits and is one of the semi-mainstream games in this layer. Entering the game will show a pretty nice ring select. The theming the game follows is a remix of the themes JToH follows, starting off at some floating islands and descending into caves which contain various quirks. There are 4 completed rings and 2 subrealms in the first world. The second world exists, however no zones are completed in them. Between the subrealms and completed areas there are 53 towers, neats and citadels to play. As expected from a game themed around classic towers, the gameplay is based off the unforgiving and often brutal nature of ascending classical towers. The gameplay is less design and is way more straightforward. The design is very straight to the point. It doesn't have extreme over designs. It's just there to make the tower feel fuller. Lastly, their creativity is not innovative as today. However, the towers often can be quite creative and unique with the limited client objects they have access to. The lobbies are way more modernized than the towers, as very precise and small details are added. They still have the classical feel of older lobbies. The game doesn't always stay classic, as future towers develop modern gameplay, design and creativity. Tower of Failing to Ascend in Ring 1 is one of the most daunting towers in the entire ring. This tower fits the classic gameplay style really well, and has a few cool mechanics and sections which are worth playing. Another tower which stands out in the game is Tower of Bank Heist in Ring 2. This is one of the few themed towers in Addison's Classic Towers. It executes its theming pretty well. The gameplay is pretty good for being a high intense difficulty tower. Compared to other classic games, this one's more recent. The tower and lobby design indicates that it is themed to be somewhere around 2020 to 2021. Addison's Classic Towers represents the classic feel of towers very well. There are some towers which stick out and are worth a try. Apple's Tiny Towers is a fan game created by Venus, but formerly known as APY1Z. The fan game has 31,600 visits. As seen in the name, the game is legacy, meaning that it's not the most recent version. There is a newer version just titled Apple's Tiny Towers that will be discussed in the next layer. Just note that the updated Apple's Tiny Towers cannot be entered. Just know for this entry, I'll be referring to Apple's Tiny Towers Legacy as Apple Tiny Towers. Apple's Tiny Towers are small towers. The towers are very similar in size to Purple's totally tubular towers too. The floor sizes are 50 by 50 by 50 and they scale up to be 5 floors tall. The rings are called sites instead. There are a total of 89 towers spread between 4 sites. The sites progress from an oceanic scenery to a cave with a lava pool, then a luscious mine, and lastly a crystal mine. Strangely, Site 4 cannot be entered, however Site 5 can be entered. There is also a strange world with one singular region. You get teleported to a different game for the worlds. On top of that, there are 2 subrealms, located in regions 1 and 2. Each site has various towers, ranging from 10 towers to 13 towers per site. Each site also has a citadel. Citadels can be triple the floor count of towers, being up to or even more than 15 floors. In addition to the checkerboard pattern portals have, they also have the floor count listed above the portal. Entering Site 1 will spawn you into a spawn building which is futuristic. Walking in the towers section will reveal doors, which you can click to get to towers, which is a pretty cool entrance. Peering outside will show you an oceanic setting, pretty similar to that of Zone 1 in JToH. There are secrets in the lobby too, like going up to the dog therapy and jumping down to this elevator. This area holds old events, which the game once hosted. I do have a gingerbread healing item from the 2021 Christmas event, you can see it on screen now. Between all of the sites, there are a few towers which stand out. Tower of Upwards Velocity in Sight 1 is a pretty decent remorseless tower, and Tower of Beautiful, Enhancing, Enriching Falls in Sight 2 has a pretty intriguing progression and notable design. This game is like Purple's Totally Tubular Towers 2's second lost cousin. It has ups and downs, but is still pretty fun to play. I would recommend the game if you enjoy smaller towers.
Hey guys, it's Twist, and I'm here to talk about Naji's Towers of Craziness. Of course, it's a tower game made by the one and only Naji Mandroid, and has 20k visits now. This is a very eye-catching game as the thumbnail features the game's mascot, Mr. Ball of course. Mr. Ball is the most prominent figure in Naji's Towers of Craziness, and you can see him everywhere. I mean everywhere. From portals to on and on top of tower frames, to even being hidden around the lobby. Just look at the little guy. Loading into the ring select shows one ring with various towers, from Tower of Questionable Wind to Citadel of Basalt Enigmas. These towers are scattered through a grassy hills biome. Joining the game and spawning in will place you inside the spawn building. This building contains the credits and some cake. Cake is an item which heals you to full and gives you a force field for a few seconds. Walking outside will reveal few things. Right in front of you is Mr. Ball's store. To the left of you, there are few things. Mostly notably, the difficulty chart. This is one of the few fan games with a completely horizontal difficulty chart. There are also an additional difficulty added onto it, the peaceful difficulty, which is below easy, the JToH equivalent to effortless. They use a custom difficulty chart too, which I will not explain in this segment. Even more to the left is the Mr. Ball room. This room is basically a shrine for Mr. Ball. There are various hidden items and even a hidden need called Most Epic Miraculous Escalation, which you can find it yourself. Going to the right will reveal the towers. Let's talk about them. There are the usual tower categories, the beginner towers, intermediate towers, and advanced towers. There is a custom category called intense towers, which contain tough and dreadful difficulty towers. Oh, also, there is a large statue of Mr. Ball. Tower of Perfect Colors is a low mid simple difficulty tower. It is a nice looking tower with various cool mechanics and fun gameplay. Tower of Beginning of Basements is a great tower. And my latest tower with Naji Mandroid, mixed with the jazzy music and awesome frame, is a tower with a storyline to it. The core focus of Beginning of Basements is these things called bobots, and something cool about them is that Subsi voiced them.
Hello player, welcome to our tower. I'm a bobot. Mr. Ball created us in order to serve and help his day-to-day activities. I hope you'll soon find the win pad. Mr. Ball never let us near it, haha. Good luck. Hey, nice to meet you again player. You should visit our town sometime. Me and other bobots would like to meet you. Anyways, I'll see you there, bye.
Last tower I will talk about is the Tower of Questionable Winds. While being one of the oldest towers in Naji's Towers of Craziness, it is a painful yet fun experience. It is a loop-faily tower, but with great enjoyable gameplay and a mix of interesting purism and client object usage. Naji's Towers of Craziness is one of the most underappreciated fan games on this tier, and I mean it. It is super high quality and fun to go through. Also, if you would like to know more about it, check out Subsi's deep dives into it. He dives much deeper into the fan game. This is a fan game worth playing.
The JToH Showcase project is a game which represents towers through mini models. The creator of the game, 5Milson7, wants to represent the rings in a smaller, more compact way. The game is fairly unknown with 10,500 visits, barely getting into this tier. The towers are 2 by 20 by 2 in size. The lobbies are distributed in one area, which would reflect their actual location in the general picture of all the rings and zones. On top of all of the normal areas, there are additional things too, like subrealms, deconfirmed towers, and monthly towers. Going below Zone 1 will bring you to a mini model of the Great Centurial, which is a really large and long tower which gets harder as you go. It is nil difficulty. Eventually flying around long enough will reveal the monthly towers from 2021 and 2022. Details on the towers are very accurate to the outside sections they have. The admins who build on JToH Showcase Project are instructed to build areas with precise details, from the towers to the terrain of rings and zones and subrealms. This is an amazing showcase for JToH in general. To end off this entry, I'll commentate the Great Inferno in the in-game cutscene. The starting ring of the Great Inferno starting high in the sky. The second ring of the Inferno with a bountiful garden behind a waterfall. A very cavernous ring descending into a deep cave. A ring located in a deep, dark water-filled cave with crystals mysteriously growing out of the pillars. A ring where stalagmites with towers stand above a cave filled with murky water. The final pit stop before the depths of the Great Inferno. A very hot ring that lies in the Inferno with very hard towers. Your final break before the hardest ring yet, with a citadel inside somewhere nice and cool. The final ring buried deep underground with the hardest towers awaiting you. As the name might indicate, this game involves a crazy unique mechanic. No, you do not beat towers within an hour, instead it's even more crazy than that. The mechanic of the game is that each tower was made within 1 hour. The game is created by Star the Guy and has 22,400 visits. Joining the game and entering the game will have a loading screen which has a timer, which is a nice detail. Loading into the area select will reveal a beautiful scene which displays 2 areas which are inside the game. Area 1 is a serene setting, being located in a grassy plains, with a key building in the middle. Towers surround the building and are scattered throughout the area. To the right of the area there is a subrealm. This subrealm is called Nostalgia Zone, and it contains towers which were in the original A Tower an Hour, or towers and steeples which were older in the game and got replaced. This subrealm contains more towers and steeples than any other area of the game. We will come back to this area once we talk about towers. Area 2 is a sunken city. It features a rocky landscape which houses towers and mystical tree structures. There is some shrubbery located around the rocks too, and glowing orange particles falling, adding to the atmosphere. Area 2 looks higher quality than Area 1. Area 3 has been partially made, and looks like the theme is of a futuristic setting. There are modernistic buildings which are taller and uses more futuristic colouring. Going back to and entering Area 1 will reveal a fairly nice lobby, which was unfortunately not made in 1 hour. Going inside the building will show the credits and a difficulty chart with 13 towers, a neat and a citadel on it. Going to the second floor will show all of the towers placed in their respective tower categories. Because towers in this game are made in 1 hour, they do not have JToH standards. Area 1's description quotes this: "Towers which were hastily made and therefore aren't up to JToH standards." Tower of natively narrow net worth nourishment is a very odd tower. It is some of the most wild signs I have ever seen in a Roblox tower. It follows the story of a big boss who needs $6 hidden around the tower. It has messages like, "He kinda smells too. I wonder how often he showers." And, "Are you good at helping people bathe?" Moving on from that tower, we go to the Nostalgia Zone for the next tower, which is intense difficulty. Tower of 2 times 2 short is an incredibly short tower and does not feel intense difficult. In my opinion, the gameplay punishment and length feels closer to low difficult. But other than that, it is a generally fun tower that was made within an hour. This fan game has a really interesting idea behind it. This idea results in towers which are very unique and one of a kind, and others that just feel simply rushed. I enjoyed playing some towers in this fan game. Usually tower obby games have towers which have an ascending progression. Sure, there are exceptions where the progression can get a little bit wacky, and maybe go horizontally or even downwards and descend. But what if there was a game that goes against this? Welcome to the JToH Dropper. This game takes the concept of a very popular Minecraft map, which you have certainly heard of, called the Dropper, and merges it with the ideas of Juke's Towers of Hell. In the JToH Dropper, you have to avoid obstacles and towers, which you would use to ascend. The droppers featured in the game are created by 3 people: IL4nub, Worsachain, and Kitcher. To get to the droppers in the first place, you spawn in a lobby with various portals and this button. The main area of the lobby holds all of these portals, for the droppers leading into their respective rings and zones. There are 7 complete droppers. These are Ring 1, Ring 2, Ring 3, Ring 4, Ring 5, Garden of Ishol, and Forgotten Ridge. The droppers consist of doing 2 main things, which is to fall and avoid obstacles, as touching any obstacle will end your run instantly. Every object is basically an insta-kill pick. Joining any tower will put you into an abomination of a structure containing every citadel, tower, steeple, and mini tower in the ring, zone, or subrealm. The towers won't be separated though, they are combined to form a really large and long great citadel. To make the dropper actually possible, the tower has an elevator which descends you down, probably a third of your normal falling speed. Another important adjustment to the towers is some objects being removed. One obvious example of this is outside sections, since they would be increasing the part count and not being used for anything. Full floor nets are removed too, as if they would still exist, the moment you hit a descending tower, your run is over. Some objects are removed just because they are too hard to avoid. An in-game example of this is Tower of Rage Floor 10 Tightropes being removed. This is a pretty enjoyable game, and has a great spin on tower obbies in general. Usually Roblox droppers are very bad, but the JToH Dropper executes this concept pretty well. Even if this episode is over, we are only scratching the surface of Layer 5. I hope you enjoyed my constant yapping for 45 minutes about these fan games. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!